Okay, I've come across a report via LBC about the latest initiative or approach, for want of a better term, by Extinction Rebellion. I'm going to read a little bit of the report. I won't read all of it because it's a bit lengthy, but basically, in their infinite wisdom, Extinction Rebellion are planning to set off alarms in public buildings, kickstarting 12 days of crisis in the run up to the general election, according to plans seen by LBC. In group chats, the climate change campaigners also discussed plans to buy air raid sirens, setting them off early in the morning inside locked boxes. They also plan to raise flags on town halls, council buildings, and other landmarks on the 1st of December, with or without permission. In the messages on Telegram seen by LBC, organisers revealed for max disruption, you could set the siren off and then leave it in some locked box or container. Would be good in prominent places like outside Parliament, Downing Street, etc. Give Boris an early wake up alarm. Um, Another activist raised the option of setting off fire alarms in office buildings. He said, could setting off fire alarms in certain buildings perhaps be made as part of this action? Enter a building, bank, or a government office and set off the fire alarm. Employees file out and they get to hear climate emergency speeches from Extinction Rebellion people with megaphones. Not everyone was behind the plan. One activist warned the sirens could backfire by scaring the public. He said, I really like the idea of raising the flag and raising the alarm, but I worry that literally setting off air raid sirens will scare loads and loads and loads of people and might do more harm than good. Now wait to hear the response. I know for sure that if I was in town and heard an air raid siren going off, that I would run for cover. But other campaigners shrugged off the concern, saying, I know what you mean, but I mean the planet is dying, that's effing scary. One reason the activists may be concerned about a backlash was the negative response they got after disrupting commuters travelling to work during their previous campaign in October. Okay, so you get the gist. They want this period of maximum disruption, as if they haven't caused enough disruption already. Um, Yesterday, the co-founder was in the news because he made a flippant comment about the Holocaust, in which he described it as one of the many, and I quote, fuckeries of history. And he was accused of downplaying the magnitude of that event. He's apologised, but my feeling is there's starting to appear chinks within this organisation. That's the good news. The bad news is that the more extreme factions are just they're getting even more extreme. Now, I use the word extreme and I stand by that, and this is why. If it is your opinion that any tactics are legitimate, any tactics for your cause, then that blurs the line with any sort of moral, personal responsibility, and that's when you go from being an activist to an extremist. Now, they clearly haven't thought this out. If you set off fire alarms, that can cause a public panic. In some cases, those fire alarms are directly linked to the emergency services. I know at my old halls of residence in Wolverhampton, when a fire alarm went off, it was directly linked up to the fire station, so that meant they came out. And a lot of the time, their time was wasted because some idiot had got drunk and put something in the oven and just forgotten about it. Wasted in the sense it wasn't an actual fire, but so they're going to waste the time of the emergency services at a busy time of year, but they're also going to cause public panic, potentially. I mean, have they bothered to consider the older people, perhaps with weak heart conditions, it could give someone a heart attack? That sort of situation. How will members of the public not know it's some sort of terrorist attack going on? This is what, frankly, enrages me about Extinction Rebellion. I'm not going to mince my words. This is an organization that really makes me angry because they are so arrogant. Their founders literally boast of disrupting the public. They're proud of the fact. This is an organization that believe they have a right to hurt regular people. They believe they have that right. And what we're seeing now is the more moderate factions within the movement are simply being ignored. So those people who are saying, oh, maybe this will backfire, maybe it's not a good idea, they're being ignored. And people say, "Oh, well, it's a movement without leadership." That's part of the problem, because anyone can then, if there's no leadership, although Roger Hallam and I forget the woman's name, who said that she wanted to disrupt the public, I forget her name now, but if they don't have a central leadership, this is an organisation where anyone can latch onto and do anything, because there's no sort of guidelines. There's no like, oh, we forbid you to do this in the name of Extinction Rebellion. So what's to stop some of these people further down the line trying to build explosives, trying to sabotage railways and so on, i.e., resorting to terrorism? It's not an exaggeration. In the 70s, there were some low-level terror organizations. I believe one of them was environmental. I forget the name now, but it's really not a far stretch to think that further down the line they could use these sort of resorts. After all, they believe that anything's legitimate. Because if you rationalize to yourself, oh well, the planet's dying and nothing's bigger than the planet, so why not get explosives to wake up the public? Why not let's blow up railway lines because, hey, we need to shock the public? That's what I find frightening about this organization, actually, is that the extreme elements, that there's no way of reining them in. Um, I do think that the public need to start fighting back. If they're stopping people getting to hospital to visit sick relatives, if they're stopping commuters getting to work to feed their families, if they're stopping unemployed people going to job interviews, those people have a right to be angry and proportionately fight back. If they think it's okay for them to hurt the public should turn around and say, all right, we're going to, make pickets outside your house peacefully, stop you from leaving. I think Extinction Rebellion anarchists, and I think that's the sort of ideology a lot of them have, because they don't believe in order. They want chaos. That is a stated admission. They want chaos. So by definition, that is an anarchist ideology. I think because they have that mindset, then the public should have a right to start fighting back. These people need to understand if they're hurting ordinary people are going to get more and more angry coming up to a general election, coming up to Christmas, it's like builders that choose the busiest time of year to do roadworks, but worse because they're planning mass disruption. I don't know where this is going to go. I think my own theory about Extinction Rebellion is fractures will emerge within the organization. I think the extreme elements, the more hardcore elements, will polarize those who have naively thought it was just an organization that cares about climate change. I don't believe they are. I think they use that as a cover. I think probably they've convinced themselves that that's the issue, but they're more interested in their own sense of self entitlement and um, exhibitionism. I mean, they're incredibly self entitled. They believe they're above the law. They believe they can do anything they want. um, this sort of mentality wouldn't, apply to anyone else. So I don't see why they should get away with it. Final few words: the right to peaceful protest means that you have a right to show animosity towards a government policy or a company or whatever. It has never included the right to hurt ordinary people. Never. That's not democracy. That's anarchy. So the public need to start fighting back proportionally, peacefully, but making it clear to these people. I mean, I would like to see certain things going on. I'd like to see someone who knows something about computers hacking into the website, causing them some disruption. I'd like to see the personal lives of the organisers seriously disrupted to the point where they understand the stress they're putting everyone else through. The more I see of this organisation, the more I feel disgust and contempt, because they're not reasonable people. They're not people who just care about the environment. They're extremists. The hardcore aspect of Extinction Rebellion are extremists. They believe they can do whatever they want. They believe they can hurt the public. And they don't give a damn about the consequences. They don't care that this sort of tactic is going to cause mass panic. It's going to waste the time of the emergency services, and it's potentially going to give older people or vulnerable people heart attacks. That's not an exaggeration. There have been examples of false alarms and people suffering heart attacks. So And if that happens, I think they should be charged with manslaughter. I really do. I would like to see them, because at the moment what's happening is they're being arrested to spend the night in a cell and that's it. They're proud of it. They need to really, really feel the consequences. They need to be made bankrupt with fines. I want to see them personally struggling. I want to see them personally impacted by their own nonsense. But they don't care because they're not personally impacted. So I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for that sort of vigilantism. I'm simply saying if Extinction Rebellion think they have the right to hurt the public, and they do, then the public have a right to have some sort of vacuum to answer back, because they say it's for the greater good. But not a single person will be persuaded about the climate change issue if, with this sort of tactic. It just won't happen. Incidentally, it'll be interesting to see how the Green Party does this year, because the Green Party have fully endorsed Extinction Rebellion. So it'll be interesting to see if the Greens go up or down. They did go down in 2017 from 2015. So if the Greens lose votes this year, that'll be why. And if they gain votes, well, that will require its own analysis. But um, I must admit, I have deep contempt for Extinction Rebellion. Every time they do something like this, every time they propose something like this, um, but it's going to turn around. People are going to get so fed up with them that they're going to really, there's really going to be a big backlash against the organisation. I hope that they collapse in on themselves. I hope there is severe infighting within the organisation, and I hope they crumble, because this is not a noble organisation. They're not heroes. They are extremists.